am in car audio.
Oh, Cruz. Yeah, Cruz is talking from the 1970s.
We're gonna ex-nay that audio that's old as Karl Marx right now.
Yeah.
Bucko.
Let me see if
I thought he did it to be,
There's no robots allowed in camp.
I thought he did it to follow the theme. Anyway, there's like 11 people in here. So welcome everybody to the first Re-Education Live.
Welcome campers to Kollectiv Re-Education.
What did we say? Howdy doody. No, it wasn't
howdy doody. Yeah, that's what we had to just redo the Camp Laszlo theme song.
that'd be good.
I think a lot of people really love that.
Camp Laszlo.
Bro, I hated Camp Laszlo.
What? That's rare.
I don't know what Camp Laszlo is.
Rest in peace, Rooster Teeth.
I just did not like it. It was not my vibe.
So are we gonna get right into the extreme beef? What are we doing here? You guys can be on camera, by the way. I prefer it. I think people would like to see it.
I be here.
Does my microphone sound better now?
Yeah, you sound finally like you've
you're in 2024.
You did some dangus reforms and now you're now you're back. By the way, this is my background. Everybody, so we hope you appreciate that with the camp.
I'll get on camera here in a minute.
Yeah, fine. Take your time.
Is my AC like coming through a lot?
I hear a little bit. It's white noise. It's not major.
Okay, I can move farther away from it. Anyway, all right. So we got a lot of homies in here. You ready, Muerte? You ready, Cruz?
Yeah, I'd say so. I think I'm ready.
All right.
All right.
Yeah, let's roll.
All right, cool. So we wanted to do a different kind of live, kind of go back to our roots as we started the original podcast here on TikTok. So we decided to do an initiative with the help of Aria here, Kollectiv Re-Education. You can get the pun later if you haven't already. And basically we wanted to address a little bit more theory-based questions or topics that we don't really do so much on the podcast, mostly because the podcast right now has been mostly current events because things have been going crazy, as you all know. Like and subscribe if you haven't. But anyway, so we wanted to talk today, basically. So today's episode 1, and it's called What is Not to Be Done? And we primarily wanted to address what it means to be a good comrade, what it means to be a legitimate comrade, who and who isn't an op, and particularly who is and who isn't genuine here on TikTok. Not particularly by name, but by behavior. What people do that kind of things that we've observed where we think need to be corrected in order to sort of bring the standard of TikTok lives up to snuff, really. So I think that's a pretty good summation. Wouldn't you say, campers? Wouldn't you say, boys?
I sure would.
All right. So I think one of the things that we can just kind of start right away is one of the things that we wanted to address is the TikTok live. So there's a lot of TikTokers, a lot of communists here who I think genuinely at first mean well, but they focus so much of their efforts on debate bro culture, and that is really not something I think that is appropriate to or is very sustainable, because there's a time and place for a debate. But I think when you're focusing so much of all of your praxis is, let me argue with liberals all day, let me argue with right-wingers all day, let me argue with Yahtzees all day, it kind of doesn't really do anything for the movement. Like, eventually, you're not so much even convincing other people to, come to our side. You're just sort of creating a space for a lot of drama. Because the best thing, in my opinion, you can do legally to remove sort of these unsavory elements in these spaces is to win in actions, basically, to win in organization. To be able to show what you and your comrades and your organization have been able to accomplish, as opposed to like, oh, we got another right winger in alive, and also like going out of your way to, I think, debate other communists ad nauseum. Now, I'll stipulate that because I did just make a call out post on the Kollectiv Twitter. So like I have also done it, and I still continue to do it myself. It's difficult. I totally understand it, but like, you have to consider what is the validity of the call out. So like, if you go on Kollectiv Twitter right now, you'll see exactly what I'm referring to. That's more of an effort to take the energy that other communists have been putting into that person and hoping they put it elsewhere, particularly because I think that person is a grifter. But like, you can only argue so much to a point where generally within debates, you're not going to be able to, you're not debating to win. You're debating because you want to hear yourself talk, really. And Cruz, it sounds like you're going through a time tunnel right now.
I think I am. How do I sound?
Like you're going through a time tunnel.
Like you're going through a time tunnel, yeah.
Oh, jeez, not beans. Not beans.
Overall, Ivan, I agree. I think that trying to like debate and just have these arguments back and forth could lead to nothing. I think as communists, we should always be willing, and we should be educating the masses, or educating our community specifically, and organizing if possible. And if not, there's some folks who can't do that, or who live in like small towns, so on and so forth. It's good to organize a community online or just educate. I mean, there's a point where when educating turns into debate, and you can't save everyone. There's a lot of people who are super cemented in their anti-communist rhetoric, their little bubble that they're in, and sometimes it's good to recognize that you can't save them all, because they don't want to be saved. You can't save them. They don't want to be saved, but I think it's good to acknowledge that, and to keep pushing. If you come across an individual who's cemented in their rhetoric and super like some people just aren't worth it, honestly. And there's other people within your community, or other people online in the community that you're part of, that you should be educating. We as like Marxist Leninists and communists, we are the advanced. We must be trying to go for the people who are intermediate, the people who are willing to listen, willing to learn. And you will come across people who are backwards, as Mao would say, backwards as in like I mentioned earlier, super cemented in anti-communist rhetoric. Yeah, but I think you make valid points. I mean, you should be able to critique yourself and acknowledge when it's a time just to stop interacting with said individual or people, and move on to other folks who can benefit their community and the movement overall.
I want to jump off that real quick and just say that one of the things we were talking about also is I think there's a lot of misinformation on TikTok about what communism is and isn't. And, when people are focused on engaging in debate, they're not focusing their energy on like critical analysis. So I don't know if you want to talk a bit about that, Ivan, but.
No, for sure. You'll get a lot of people who, because of a lack of a critical analysis, they tend to sort of go ahead and like what is popular, really, especially on leftist Twitter. So on leftist Twitter, and I'm not saying communist Twitter, leftist Twitter, you have a lot of this conversation about multipolarity. The idea that the world is made up of either a uni or multiple poles of power, particularly within competing empires. So for the longest time, there has been a unipolar world where the United States has been the top of the hegemon. So basically they rule the world, right? Now there's a narrative being spun that there's multiple powers rising. and they're changing that polarity. And that comes primarily in the form of China, Iran, and Russia. Now, we don't have the time to get into this debate, not to make some of you in the comments mad, but, the idea that China and Russia and Iran are somehow going to save the world from capitalism is a major L. It's not going to happen. It's not rooted in critical analysis. So you get a lot of people who will see that that's popular and that's trending, and they'll kind of just go along with that, and they bring it here to TikTok lives, and then they'll make these really, in my opinion, really goofy lives where they'll be like, oh, China, Chad of the world, like taking the meme way too far, and essentially being like, yeah, if we just wait for China to land their ships on the shores of California, the world will be safe. And you start to have people who have a really hard misunderstanding of communism. So then, you're going to get a right-winger in those lives who does believe that there is a country in the world that has the capacity to invade the United States. There isn't. And you now are playing into their fear, and you're going to lose that person from perhaps being marginally sympathetic to the communist cause, because now you're talking about something that you don't understand, something that isn't rooted in reality, and you're presenting it to somebody who is already thinking backwards, and you are going to push that person farther to the right.
No, 100%. I think that when I was first coming up, I was also guilty of this. When I was, I guess you could say, baby leftist, I would be like, President Xi will liberate us, but that's just not true. It's up to us to organize and liberate ourselves. I think relying on China across the world, when they have their own problems going on and their own inner problems also going on, I think that it's super idealist, and it's almost just undialectical. But I think and it also plays into campism also, like especially with a lot of the multipolar like communists who are like pro Russia and like pro Russian imperialism. Like I think when it comes to the war and it comes to Ukraine, I think that that's a topic of its own. And you could have your critiques of it. Ukraine being a puppet state for the West, and the United States funding a proxy war and getting millions of Ukrainians' lives slaughtered in the name of profit. But either way, that's getting off track. I think it's important for us to critique ourselves, and if you see this online, and if you see it happening, critique your comrades, critique everybody else, let them know how they're wrong, why they're wrong, and so on and so forth. I think it would benefit not only you but yourself. And like Ivan said, it's not going to be pushing people away. I mean, and also you got to acknowledge that some people can't take criticism very well. They'll become ultimately super defensive and stuff. And that goes back to my point earlier that some people aren't willing to listen. Just move on.
I was going to say, Muerte, I actually think you brought up a really important point, which is how we can address comrades in a way where we're not just engaging in lives where we're just debating each other and creating infighting, which essentially can dilute the importance of what we're actually talking about and take us down pathways that are destructive to the movement. And I think I'd like to hear what you guys have to say on that, if you don't mind.
I would say the things that we need to do better at teaching, like specific talking points. We need to get better at teaching each other how to truly think materially, like actually look at what's going on in the world and analyze it. Like China's not going to export their revolution. They don't believe in doing that, right? And as Ivan said, Russia is not going to somehow save the world because their version of imperialism is challenging the U.S. version of imperialism. It's still imperialism. And we need to do better, and that's kind of the point of this podcast, getting people to think more materially.
Right, and I think something that we need to address too, in line with that we see in a lot of these communist TikToks, is sort of this worshiping and worshiping of books and worshiping of figureheads. Now, I'm going to preface that with saying you should read theory, 110%. You should read it, have someone read it to you, read it with your friends, listen to it on audiobooks. If you know somebody who doesn't read very well, even in the West, help that person, teach that person how to read. Like, there's no shame, no nothing about that. In order to understand that these books, while important, are not Bibles, and that you need to understand the perspective of which they were written from, what is correct and what is incorrect in those books, because then you have people who come onto these lives and get into debates with people, and they're not very good at debating people. And as I said previously, you have people who are more interested in hearing themselves speak than actually being correct. So when they get backed into a corner, because I've seen a lot of communists on TikTok lives argue very poorly, when they get into a corner against a libertarian or a capitalist, which is hilarious, then they'll come out with the argument of like, well, did you read theory? Of course, the ops didn't read the theory, bro. Like, that's not a gotcha. That's not an argument, because you don't even understand what you were supposed to be reading. Again, because you don't have a sense of material analysis, and if you don't have that, you are being actively detrimental to the movement, because you are putting yourself in a position that is showing other people who you are supposedly trying to win over that you don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Right, and that could also be super dangerous, because then, you know, the folks who are in your life or the people you have conversations with will go on and spread that same rhetoric, and it's like a domino effect, and then you have like a bunch of like a lot of people who are not really based on that. But I think it's really now that you say that. I think that one thing too that is, I think, a critique for myself too, is that I'm not really a debate person. I'm not really that good at debating, which is why I don't go up on lives and debate. Not so because I don't have the information. It's more so that my patience is super thin. But either way, I think you make a valid point when it comes to that, for sure.
That's the reason I wanted to do this live, is because the people that have the most to say don't come up to debates to argue. They come up to debates to discuss and materially analyze. Or debates, we'll call it lives, sorry.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that leads to something that we were just discussing in the Discord before we came up here, guys, was I think that sort of notion of like, let me be the guy, let me be the debater, even though you lack material analysis, you end up having a lot of people who believe that they are going to be the next Lenin, that they're going to be the next Stalin, they're going to be the next Che, the next Fidel, the next Leila Khalid, the next Angela Davis, whoever, without understanding that none of those people ever thought that they were going to be those people. And those people joined organizations that had already existed. They didn't like, I'm gonna start the 15th Marxist Leninist organization here on TikTok. Like, no. It's not how it's going to work. Because if you, and I've seen it on TikTok and I've seen it on TikTok lives, that if you believe truly that you are going to be that leadership person, it generally will show you, I'll put it to you this way, you end up cultivating a following, but you don't end up fostering a community. So you'll get a lot of people who have, like we just said, lack material analysis, who are into the debate bro culture, and are more interested in having a parasocial relationship with you than building an organization and building real change alongside you. Because the leaders of these movements come organically. They don't come just because you decided one day I'm going to be that guy.
Right, I think it's like a case of like main character syndrome. And I think a lot of people have kind of felt that. They're just like, okay, I got a decent following. But like, instead of thinking that way, instead of thinking I'm going to lead these people to the next revo, you should be like, okay, I'm going to, foster a community and create a community with these folks, help educate them, we'll help each other, critique each other, move forward in the movement, promote these folks going out in the community if possible, because some people, like I mentioned earlier, all right, they're not able-bodied, or they just they suffer from social anxiety, or they just live in a small town. Either way, still having these folks go out and build a community, or even just introduce a friend or two. I think that helps too, and I think that's how you should use your following, or your instead of thinking I'm gonna be the next Lenin, be the next just be the next leader in your community to progress your community to the class consciousness that they need to be at to help progress and improve your material conditions.
And knowing yourself, like figuring out who you are and what you can contribute, as opposed to being centered on leading others. Obviously being a part of a community means that you know what you have to offer, and you are reflecting back on who you are and using theory as a touchstone to help you stay focused. Sorry.
So, no, you're fine. I was going to say, something I want to add to that general conversation is, one, it's sort of like an early phase of starting to read, or even just starting to understand context theory, because you kind of you've hit that stage where you're like, all right, capitalism sucks, the conditions I live in suck, here's something that can fix it. But in your mind, in those early stages, you are still liberal brain, right? You still have a lot of liberalism that you're going to have to actually undo within yourself. And the belief that you're going to be the next Lenin, the next Castro, next Che, like any of those people, is a form of liberalism. And like you said, main character syndrome. And it goes to show, like, if you actually sit and engage with theory, whatever way that may be, that will help undo that belief structure and understand what happened in the past and how we got to where we are today.
Yeah, exactly. Common collective W. I think also too, kind of going back to, now you are on camera and I just got off of camera, so now I gotta go back on camera.
On the spot,
I like the
where I have to have a
shades.
camera on.
Nice.
You know what it is I'm so used to not having to hold the camera, like when we do the regular podcast. So I'm like, I don't know what to do with my hands. But anyway,
I need to get a tripod. A little ring light for you, Ivan.
I have one in the other room. But anyway, so what was I gonna say? I think also too, some criticism I have of the sort of TikTok communist live culture is, yes, there is a cutoff for when someone is being blatantly belligerent. However, if you're going into situations that you're going to be actively debating with people who have backwards thinking, there's a pretty high chance they're going to say something crazy. And if you pop off the handle as soon as it happens, again, you push people out, and you will not be able to bring people in. Now, I'm not saying that means you should just sit there and let people call you slurs. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is, more often than not, because of the debate bro culture that exists here, because people want to be right, because they want to be self-righteous, I feel as if I've observed that there is a feeling of, I want to pounce on the next person who says something to me sideways, and I'm going to make it a whole drama, and then I'm going to talk to all my friends about that drama. Like, and especially as a person of color who experiences this shit every single day, like, it gets old. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know what you think, Morte. Like, it just kind of gets to the point where it's like, yeah, of course that person said that to you because they're backwards. They're thinking backwards. But we put ourselves in a situation that gave them the opportunity to even do that in the first place. So, like, I'm not saying don't be upset by it, but I'm saying every time you fly off that handle and then you go and talk to your friends about it in Discord, it doesn't, it's not producing anything.
No, 100%, I agree. And like what Spring says, it's like a hyper individualistic attitude that will isolate you from your own community and will isolate you overall. And thinking that, like, I mean, of course, like it's valid for you to have those feelings. It's valid for you to be upset. But like I mentioned earlier, you can't save everybody. It's not worth interacting with almost everybody. I mean, I get hundreds of comments, every day. There's some comments I'll poke fun at and so on and so forth, but then we move on. I think going on a tirade and stuff will probably, and also not contributing, just sending it, to your community, your comrades, and kind of not really interjecting or adding anything, kind of just doesn't do anything. Starting off and self criticism here. When I started off, I did that a lot. When I was a baby leftist, and it's just one thing that I learned, especially interacting with comrades, principled Marxists online, who've told me that it's not really worth it. It's not really worth the time. Of course, it's your feelings are valid and it's okay to be upset, but I mean, there are people who are backwards and there's people who are within the intermediate bracket that you can interact with and so on and so forth, educate. But I think you're definitely valid when it comes to that. And I mean, of course, your community and your Discord friends and your whoever else will support you and be there for you. But the thing is that, I think trying to get them involved with the drama and your own problems instead of focusing on the bigger picture, again, isolates yourself, and it could be individualistic and something that a lot of communists could work on. I mean, I'm not saying that like you're a bad person because you do this. We're not saying that at all. We're saying, no, this is critique yourself, listen to the critiques of your comrades, and and then also like if you're involved in your community, I mean, I think it's important because the people you share the same material conditions as will probably agree with me. I'm in a predominantly Hispanic, Latino, Chicano area, and so getting involved in that community, I think will also help you gain some more knowledge on like why it's not important. I mean, and also there's just bigger things and bigger fish to fry. Really, there really is. And I think you said it perfectly.
Ultimately, I think something we all need to hear from time to time is we do not need everyone to be a communist for revolution to take place, and it's unrealistic to think that's going to happen. It is going to be a long road to get to where we want to be, even the first early stages of socialism. And while it is important to push back on ideas like fascist thinking and stuff like that, it's ultimately a waste of effort to try to convert them.
Right. A couple things here. Because we got a decent amount of people in here. So if you guys don't already know us, we run a YouTube page called Kollectiv TV. We also do a weekly podcast. You look us up, Kollectiv TV, Kollectiv Podcast on YouTube. It's spelled just like how Kollectiv Re-Education is up there. You can come like, subscribe, hear our other takes. But anyway, so yeah, it is ultimately futile to try to convert those people. And I think that's, again, going back to the lack of material analysis, where people want to, they get into these debates with people who are blatantly backwards, who are blatantly, I'm trying to think of the word to use for TikTok, fashion novas. You won't be able to, it's futile. And you're only going to hurt yourself. You're going to hurt the community. But in terms of like, I saw down here, people referring to like the community, building that community aspect is difficult, and it is difficult, especially when you're living in an area that is very reactionary. But thankfully, for right now, we have access, to the internet, and this is where when you start to speak up and sort of avoid that peer pressure that like TikTok popularity or TikTok vibes try to give you. You'll tend to see that probably more people agree with you than you realize. But when you have a lot of these, especially bigger creators, going on these lives, I hate to say it like this, but it's true, canceling people for essentially nothing. And what is and isn't a big deal. You don't need me to walk you through that. It just creates an environment that is not conducive for anybody, because it's in our analysis that those people are more interested in sort of being a hipster, actually. And actually, you know what? I have a quote. I'm gonna pull it up and read it to you guys. It's cool, but you guys can yap for a second.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think it's definitely tough, organizing your community, and if you can't organize your community, it's important. And I lost my train of thought. God dang it! But let me bounce back. It's important to just keep a progression, and if you can't organize your community, again, like online it's a perfect tool. It could help a lot of people. And what I was getting at is, you got to realize. Okay, now I remember. You got to realize that a lot of people grew up in this liberal hellscape, and a lot of people, especially in the suburb, liberal, and maybe definitely in the small towns, they have to fight their inner liberalism, their inner white supremacy, even if they don't think they have it. They have to continually. It's an everyday fight, and that's one thing you got to give some people the benefit of the doubt. Of course, there's gonna be people who are backwards that you don't even want to interact or even want in your community at all. But there's some people who are they're gonna be a part of the intermediate bracket and still kind of have like those individualistic and possibly even racist thoughts. That doesn't necessarily make them racist, but it just makes them a victim of liberalism in a way. And that's where us communists within the advanced bracket go in. And we reverse this. We communicate with them. Obviously, if a person is in the calling you slurs and so on and so forth, don't even bother. But there's some people who are genuinely curious. They might have like a racist opinion, or opinion that that is inherently reactionary, and that's where you sit down with them, or you hop in the live and have that conversation. Don't debate them or like criticize them, or even talk to them like they're children. These folks, they have their own lives. They have a lot of problems that they're dealing with. And we have to keep that in mind. We have to take that into account, and which is why that although Kollectiv is kind of known for making fun of white folks, we don't necessarily hate them or not want to organize with them. It's more so that it's kind of weeding out the bad ones. And there's some people who will take offense to that, and then some people who are willing to answer or willing to listen and be like, why do you say these, or why are you acting like this towards white folks, so on and so forth. Then you can have those conversations. And then there's people who are like, I don't even want to say the word. They just don't even want to interact or learn from.
They're called crackers.
Yeah, and we're talking about the saltine cracker.
The difference between being anti-white and anti-cracker. We should probably define it.
Yeah.
Right. So
this is what we're talking about, essentially.
Hey, can I address something real quick?
Yeah.
So I just saw a comment that made me think of something. It's Timberwolf here. I have a hard time with isolationism, but my neighbor is active in PSL, it turns out. And something I've seen sort of in the past, I don't see it as much anymore, but it goes hand in hand with that main character syndrome, where someone thinks they're going to be the next Lenin, and they think they're going to make big changes, and that they are going to ultimately be the chosen one that does so. And I've asked the question, okay, what's your neighbor's name?
Right.
And they don't know. And it's like, well, how are you going to be the next Lenin if you can't tell me what your neighbor's name is? Right. And in the case of that comment, it's like learning a little bit more about the community and the people around you. You don't know what stage they're at if you're not talking to them.
Mm-hmm. reflecting
Yeah.
on yourself and what skills you can be working on within the context of your broader work. I want to just real quick let everybody know who's in here. Thanks to you guys for coming in. This is a fixed panel, so there's, you can send all the requests you want, but you're not going to be allowed up.
Right.
That's the point of this live, is to teach people. So please just listen.
Right. Thanks, Aria. Yeah. So I want to read this quote, and I'm not gonna say whose it's from, just because it's coming from a in real life comrade, and I don't know if they want that out there. But I'm the third party to receive it. So, but I think this ties into this anti-cracker stuff, and then kind of the overall TikTok vibe, what is not to be done. So I'm gonna read this to you guys. So bear with me real quick. Hipster leftist is a contradiction in terms. Hipsters make being different from the masses their personality, whereas connecting with the masses is the first task of a leftist. Of course, you should be a unique individual. As soon as you start trying to connect with the masses of humanity, it is viscerally obvious that every human being is a unique individual. In fact, the primary thing leftists unite with the masses around is the solidarity with every locus of individuality struggling against a system that's forcing them into a category of indifferentiated fuel. Hipsterism looks at the consumerism and existentialism emptiness plaguing the masses of humanity, which is such contrast to their own internal special and authentic feelings and desires, and then decides to shape a personality based upon being different from the mindless masses. The consequence is a movement which will pick up older working class cultural phenomenon like thrifting or even listening to records and co-opt it with a petite bourgeois hustler mentality, resulting in all sorts of heinous nonsense, like upselling used clothes online or record shops selling blues and blue-colored punk in gentrified neighborhoods. It picks up socialism and communism and anarchism as aesthetics to make the radical liberalism more distinct from everyday person, rather than being grasped and propelled by the consequence of revolutionary imperative. Among the many reasons America doesn't have a left yet is that it has been infected by hipsterism. So I really like that, because I think that really encompasses a lot of what we see on a lot of these TikTok lives. Is, again, going back to the person who wants to be Lenin, who wants to be Che. They are constructing a persona for themselves in order to sell themselves, not to sell communism or socialism, but in order to cultivate a following and cultivate fans. You guys know exactly on this app who does that. The difference, with an operation like Kollectiv, is that it's not just one person doing this. And the whole point of Kollectiv is that if you are a Marxist-Leninist or Marxist-Leninist adjacent and you want to submit something to have it posted, you can do that. We are willing to work with essentially most people, and it's not ego-driven. At least we try, I think, way harder than most people on this app do, to not be ego-driven. So what you have here is something that is extremely detrimental to the movement, because then you're having people who are liberals who are just hearing and seeing what's popular on Twitter, what's trending, and we can just yap about it and yap about it and yap about it. By the way, buy my shirts. And there's nothing wrong with selling your shirts, but when you're only simply trying to sell an aesthetic instead of change, that is when you are an op. You are the enemy of the people.
And I think that's valid. And to go back to your quote, it reminded me so much of a person that when I was organizing my community heavily. We came across an individual who was a Marxist-Leninist Maoist, and nothing against Maoists, of course, but this person in particular, he believed that all liberals and all conservatives were backwards, and that they weren't even worth organizing, and they were really super dogmatic in the sense that they believe it was like super individualistic and super isolating. They isolated themselves from our organization. Our organization, we had meetings and we decided to isolate this person because although they read the theory, they understood the theory in some sense. They were still super dogmatic and didn't believe that majority of the liberals, majority of the conservatives, although having reactionary views aren't worth organizing or educating or.
I don't know if you meant to mute yourself. Oh, there he goes. Yeah, you got cut off there, buddy. But I think we kind of pretty much got the idea of what you were trying to say. Now you sound like you're super far away. All right, let me regroup for a second here.
I would just want to let everybody know that this will be reposted on the Kollectiv YouTube. So if you want to go and review it, you can. You're encouraged to subscribe, like, comment, all that.
Yeah, it'll be up tonight, guys. I'm gonna put it up once we're done here. What's up, buddy?
I don't know if you said it. I don't like. For anyone who doesn't know, my ears are a little clogged, so hearing is a little difficult for me. Did you say where that quote was from?
No, because Larry sent it to me, and I don't know if the person who sent it to Larry wants that out there. You know what I mean?
Sure if it was like from a book or like.
No. It was written by well, of course, if it's in a book, someone wrote it, but like it was somebody's personal writing.
I get
right. But I'll ask Larry and I'll put it into YouTube.
I got a question in the chat. Go ahead, Ivan.
No, let's do a question.
So it says, it's from Dakota, and it says, what roles are there for disabled parents, CGs, within the ML view of revolution? I mean, I'm not a parent, but I am a disabled individual, and the way that I approached it was to just get involved in the collective community and offer up my skills and start working on stuff. And then by connecting with community members, we made this happen. So I think that I would argue that disabled people are essential. But I would like to hear what you guys have to say.
So I'll answer that with a very common phrase that is heard within socialist and communist spaces, and that is from each according to their ability to each according to their need. Something like, I may not have quoted that exactly right, but essentially it's give what you can and get what you need. And that includes everyone, disabled individuals, neurodivergents, like anything, right? Like if you're able to do something, just do what you can.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, I was typing something down there. Right. Yeah, exactly. So, like, I've talked about it in the Discord plenty of times. I've talked about it on the podcast plenty of times. You know, for those of you who don't know me, professionally, I'm a nurse, and I've specialized working with people with developmental disabilities. Everybody has something to contribute. That's my whole thing. Everyone has something to contribute. I've seen people who I was told are particularly lost causes, and that's never really the case. People have something to contribute, and even if they don't, people are people. But regardless, all right. So let's kind of steer the boat in the correct direction again here. So one thing I see too on TikTok lives, which is not so much TikTok lives that communists are making, but it's TikTok lives that communists are joining. Do not waste your time joining TikTok lives that are designed to make you look like a silly goofy goober. What do I mean by that? Well, when you have the likes of Prax Ben, right? I'm just gonna say it like that, who is paid to basically get you stuck into a logical fallacy to make you look goofy, that's not helping anybody. And I want to clarify, all of Kollectiv has gone into those debates with that person. So like, we've done it too. That's why we know it's not productive, because it's rage bait. Yeah, it's a trap. It's nothing constructive is going to come out of that. You're not going to go in there and convince people in that crowd that that maybe the Chad communist is right. They're not buying it. Do not waste your time with it. Avoid people like that, because they are just going to drain you. They are emotional and intellectual vampires. They're a parasite. Like, don't do it. Don't do it.
Yeah, it's ultimately not worth it. And like Ivan said, like we know this from experience. I'm sure there's a clip of me somewhere that someone has saved.
Aria, can you let Muerte up?
I was like, I'm sure there's a clip of me. I'm sure there's a clip of you,
Yeah,
saying some dumb shit, right? Because we got caught and we fell for it.
Right, exactly.
And yeah, it's just not worth it.
it's just it
Engage more in stuff
derails
like-
you. Like, it wastes your energy, and we only have a certain capacity as individuals, and that varies. So if we're going to try to stay focused, what are we being focused on if we're arguing with people that are literally just there to derail us and waste our energy?
Yeah, exactly. All right. What else is not to be done? Learn very basic operational security. And I've been yapping about this for weeks now in the Discord and on TikTok. You have to assume, just like how this is being recorded by us, that everything you say is being recorded. Phones, televisions, your smart refrigerator. But if you have a smart refrigerator, you're probably not proletariat. But you know what I'm saying? Like, they're listening to you. And I'm not saying there's actual feds in like a building typing away, but it's AI driven. That, listen, if you talk about dog food enough, or if I start speaking Spanish, the commercials on my Roku are going to be in Spanish. They're listening. So if there is the potential, you think that perhaps the alphabet boys are interested in you, do not go onto TikTok spaces and do not go into Discord spaces and start yapping away about what you may or may not have done. It's a bad idea. And it doesn't mean, okay, if you have a trusted individual comrade or comrades that you need to speak to, then do that. But if you are part of a large collective, don't put that in general spaces, because the police have been known to look through Discords. So I'm just saying, learn your basic operational security and learn to shut your mouth.
I think one thing that is not to be done, is class reductionism. I think we should all acknowledge that the working class, there's no middle class or high middle class or whatever. I think it's important that we are the working class, and the working class is actively the only class actively trying to abolish itself and liberate themselves of their oppression and liberate themselves from capitalism. I think that's one thing we should definitely keep into account. I think it's super prevalent, especially amongst maybe like baby leftists, and that's one thing we could teach and educate and talk with folks. And there's some people who would be like, well, I'm upper middle class, what do I need to be doing? I make $80K a year, $70K a year, what am I, why am I going to be organizing with these poors? And that's the thing, is that you have a lot more in common with your with a person working fast food or so on and so forth than you do with the billionaires, right? Even if you want to convince yourself otherwise. But I think that is one issue that I think we could definitely a lot of communists should be attacking and be pushing class solidarity, class consciousness amongst the masses. We are the working class. We're all the working class. We're all being oppressed, no matter the pay bracket, whether it's $80K or whether it's $20K a year, so on and so forth. I mean, I think being, comrades and being, and relating to each other in that sense is good. And if you see like people who spew the class reductionists, and especially if they're communists, critique them hard, super hard. I mean, don't like argue and or even have this person completely turn away from Marxism because of the argument, which maybe they weren't Marxist to begin with, anyways. But I think that's important and crucial. We should always remind people, that they are the working class. We are the working class, and whether they believe it or not, we will abolish ourselves and liberate ourselves from this capitalist hellscape.
One thing I wanna touch back on when we were discussing sort of the hipsterism is something that's like personal in my own life. Most of you probably know this. New people don't know this about me, but I am a Muslim, and one of the concepts that we have in Islam is basically how you present yourself is extremely important. So how you are in private and how you are in public essentially should be the same. If you are a communist, right? You need to present yourself in a way that people are see that your character is remarkable. So what I mean by that is like, I'm going to use myself as an example. Like, I'm very kind and very courteous, at work. I help people. I do favors for people. I joke around with people. I'm goofy. And then, you get people to like you. And it's not manipulating. You're yourself. Be yourself. Be your true self. Be the best version of yourself you can be. And then you hit them with the communism part. Because that really just detonates something in people's brains. That, like, when you've been risen somebody up for weeks, and then you just kind of drop the, when it's appropriate, like, oh, I'm a communist. Like, people are like, what? But I thought, what? I thought those were bad guys. So, there's just something that I would like to put out there as well.
To kind of get back real quick to the question of class reductionism, and Leninists just put it in there. So, reducing the individual to class status, right? So we talk about the working class versus, say, the bourgeoisie, but people will go and say, oh, we don't got to worry so much about trans rights. We'll fix that after revolution. We don't have to, we need to focus on getting the working class, and then we'll solve the rest. Whereas we have to make sure we make a conscious effort to recognize all forms of oppression, and we are challenging all forms of oppression, both before, during, and after the main stage of revolution.
Yeah, for sure. I kind of got a little bit confused there, but yes, I mean, I think acknowledging people's like individual their like fight, I guess. And for example, like you said, with the LGBTQIA and trans community, some people would be like, oh, well, that's, like you said, that's not worth the time right now. We need to work on organizing the working class. But I think that's almost in a way pushing away those people. They're like, okay, well, this is really important to me. And the fact that you kind of want to push that to the side and kind of avoid that and ignore that, it's counterproductive in a way. It's almost pushing people away from communism, which is I think is something that a lot of communists do, and I think that and also there's like a lot of movements within the United States that I think we could benefit. Like, also there's like I've come across some folks who are like, let's not organize immigrants right now. We kind of have more important things to do. Let's not organize, so on and so forth. But with me, I have in my community, we have a lot of immigrants, especially from the South, and I think they're worth organizing for sure. And we even have a lot of Venezuelans. We had a surplus of Venezuelans who came up, and the amount of hate they've gone on the internet, especially here in Colorado, is it's reactionary. It's disgusting almost. A lot of them are here. A lot of them are working. Like they'll come to my job sites and they'll ask for work. They'll be out on the streets cleaning windshields, selling flowers, so on and so forth, which you can't do nothing but respect that. But a lot of people, and I mean, I haven't really come across, at least in my community, anybody who doesn't want to do that. I mean, I've come across online, but that's just, that's not everybody,
If we can also relate it back to an earlier point within this specific live with the question of disabled people and roles within revolution. We shouldn't wait until revolution to address the problems and oppressions disabled peoples face.
Right. Okay. So I think kind of, because we're getting close to the top of the hour, I think kind of to round out the thoughts in general, there's a lot of communist TikToks on TikTok. And a lot of them, I think, even if they mean well, are genuinely not doing anything that is effective for the movement because of these individualistic notions that we have pointed out. Also because of a lack of materialism, also falling for the liberal critiques of Marxism is a huge thing. Just not having a true basis of understanding. Now, am I saying that, you have to read X amount of books or have X amount of knowledge in order to start talking about Marxism? No. But it is imperative that we begin to build communities and you surround yourself with people who are smarter. Because there's people smarter than us. There are people who've been doing this for years. There are old head communists in the world who know more. And you're going to find that you're going to take things from different people, and that will create your actual material analysis of the world. For example, when I first got on TikTok, there were a lot of people that I liked that I no longer like, that I actively beef with because, I now have a different, analysis, a correct analysis. And probably a year from now, when I rewatch this, I'm going to have even more correct analysis than I did at this time, because you have to continue to grow as a Marxist. So I want to ask Aria a question, and then we can plug some stuff. So Aria, real quick.
What's up?
So before we wrap up, is there anything in particular you see on TikTok lives that you don't want to be done?
Bullshitting. There's a lot. I think one of the main things is everyone trying to it's again what you guys said, it's individualism. It's trying to bring in lib shit, like turning a live into a cancel live. We're not here for that shit. First of all, if you don't have receipts or some kind of legitimate information, you shouldn't be hijacking people's live and doing that. I'm just gonna call that out. And I think we should be trying to stay focused on what we're here to do. TikTok is a great tool and it allows us to reach many people. And we have to look at it as a tool, but not for our own ego. I wanted to ask you guys if you'd each, say what you gotta say, but recommend a beginning and an advanced theory book for people in here who are either beginning or advanced. You don't have to do both. Either or is fine.
So I would recommend, me personally, first book probably to pick up. And, there's some people who'd be like, pick up the Manifesto first. The first book I ever read was the Communist Manifesto. But overall, I think people should pick up the Principles of Communism by Frederick Engels, because it's more of like a Q&A. They ask questions and then he answers them. For example, what is communism? And then Frederick Engels' definition is the doctrine for the liberation of the proletariat. And I think that'd be a good beginner's book to get people kind of just, getting to understand some of the vocabulary, the lingo, and the language that we talk about. And then the more advanced book, Capital, I'll read all three of them. If not, then get the heck out. I'm kidding, but I think
do not start with that.
I think a more advanced book, I guess, could be you You could read the Jakarta Method, or even Black Shirt to Red. That's like a more intermediate, I guess. But definitely read Communist Manifesto. You do not have to touch on the capital right away. I mean, of course, I encourage you to, once you get a firm understanding of Marxism, to pick up the manifesto and to, give it a shot. Although it could be grueling, but it's worth it. Comrade Marx was definitely spitting in there, and eventually, down the line, pick it up. I'm not saying don't read it. I mean, definitely read it for sure.
Read everything. But
Yeah, I would say I would disagree. I think actually Black Shirts and Reds is a really good place to start, especially if you don't really know history. Like, if you know somebody who can see, especially nowadays, that they can see the contradictions getting worse, but they don't even know what a contradiction is. They just see all the crazy stuff happening in the news. I think Black Shirts and Reds is a really good way to really understand history as we are now, from World War II until the 90s, the collapse of the Soviet Union, the rise of neoliberalism. I think that's a really good place. And then for advanced, I would say, I don't know what, if by advanced is in it's harder. I don't really know. I guess you would need maybe more of a background to understand it. Would be probably imperialism, highest stage of capital. I think especially within those two conjunctions, because then you get the history aspect of everything that happened within the last 50 years. And then you get the writing from Lenin during that time period to understand, and then you can apply that definition of imperialism to modern day geopolitics, and I think things kind of fall in line from there.
Also, real quick to interject, real fast, Mao is also super digestible. Like, it's the way Mao writes, it's just kind of like music to my ears. Like, Essays on the Mass Line could be definitely a good book to start off with. On Contradiction could definitely be one of the good starter books. 2 would be super banger, and they're not super long either, right? And it's super digestible, super understandable. You could read it once or twice. Read it with a comrade. Talk about it in the Kollectiv book club if we ever read it someday. But I think that anything Mao has written, to be honest, is super digestible and could be a good starter for people.
Take it away, Cruz.
so I keep getting a phone call. I'm trying to answer. I would say, in terms of basic, to really get started and continue on the Mao thing, this person keeps calling me and I'm gonna beat him up. I would say start one of the best ones to start with is Combat Liberalism by Chairman Mao. Kind of addressing everything we've been talking here and just seeing not only liberalism that you see in others, but the liberalism that you're going to see within yourself. Because it's like, it's
This
only
guy.
a couple of pages.
They're really on your ass.
They're killing me.
Okay. Yeah, read Combat. Jesus Christ. Read Combat Liberalism by Mao. It's good. Liberals are the ops, for sure. Yeah, it's literally only a couple pages long. Mao's pretty easy to read.
We'll be doing this live ideally every 2 weeks to begin with, so we can get people kind of on a schedule. So you guys can always check the Kollectiv account, and if you just look at the description up top, it'll give you the next episode date. And thanks for everybody for coming. Thanks, Morte. Thanks, Aria. Thanks, Cruz.
Yeah.
Say one thing before you leave.
Okay.
Say my second book.
Good. Go ahead.
The more advanced one, it's not super advanced, but it's more advanced. Dialectical and Historical Materialism by Joseph Stalin.
You read my mind. I was really going to
Baller.
say that. I love you so
Baller.
much for that.
All right. If you haven't subscribed to Kollectiv TV on YouTube, please do so. Follow Kollectiv Re-Education. follow Kollectiv, the regular Kollectiv TikTok. You can follow the three of us as well. Get on the YouTube. You can see our podcast. We call it a podcast, but it's a live stream that is live every Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. A little bit higher quality production quality. We just got music now and graphics and all that stuff, so it's pretty cool. And then this video is going to go up on YouTube as well. So please subscribe, hit the bell, and capitalism will fall.
Love you guys.
Thanks,
Amen.
campers.
Love
See
y'all.
you guys in a couple weeks.